Book of Aong, son of Jehovah, God of the second cycle after man's creation. Chapter I. 1. When God and his lords of heaven and earth had lost their heavenly dominion, the swift messengers, that constantly ply through the atmospherian and Etherian worlds, bore the report to Jehovah's kingdom in Etheria. 2. The earth had passed the giant eddies at Shrappa, in the Etherian roadway Hyabalkiov, and was heading for the eastern fields of Anikaran, having entered the Danhayan arches of Jehovih, where lay the great kingdoms of the Orient chief, Jehovih, with his millions of gods and goddesses and high-raised Ethereans. 3. Before Jehovih, came the swift messengers, fresh from the heavens of the earth, with their pitiful tales of woe that had befallen the inhabitants thereof. 4. Jehovih said, I behold the red star, the earth, O Jehovah. I have heard the tale of horror. What shall be done, O Father? 5. Then spake Jehovah, saying, Call thy tributary chief, Aong. Let him hear the will of Jehovah. 6. Then sent Jehovih for Aong, who had dominion over the fields of Anikaran in Etheria, through which lay the roadway where the earth was to travel for 3,000 years. 7. And when Aong came before the holy council of Jehovah's million gods and goddesses, the all-light fell upon the throne like a sun. And the voice of the Creator spake in the midst of the light, saying, 8. Jehovah, my son. And Jehovah answered, Here am I, thy servant, O Jehovah. 9. Jehovah said, Behold the red star, the earth. She entereth the fields of Anikaran. She is dripping wet and cold in the giant eddies. Her God and lords are powerless in the spell of darkness. Send thou thy son, Aong, to deliver the earth and her heavens. For behold, I will bring them to his door. 10. Then spake Aong, saying, Thy will be done, O Jehovah. Though I have been long honored in Etheria, with many Etherian worlds to command, I have not as yet redeemed one corporeal world and her heavens from a time of darkness. 11. Jehovah said, Go then, my son, to the laboring earth and deliver her. But first appoint thou a successor for Anikaran. 12. Then spake Jehovah, who was older than the red star, who had seen many corporeal worlds created, had seen them run their course, and then disappear as such. He said to Aong 13. Send thou to Wan, and to Jehovah, in Etheria, and get the history of the earth and her heaven. And obtain thou also an account of her harvests of brides and bridegrooms to Jehovah. And thou shalt call from my realms as many million Etherian angels as thy labor may require, and with them proceed to the earth, and thou shalt have a line of swift messengers established betwixt this place and thine, and, by the power of Jehovah, I will answer thy prayers in whatsoever thou shalt need. 14. Then Aong went back to Anikaran, his Etherian kingdom, and before his holy council made known Jehovah's will and his. And Aong called for 60 million volunteers, to go with him on his mission. And they came presently, some from Yohan, some from Tsing, some from Arath, some from Gunlu, and from various other places in Anikaran. Came in millions. Came as many as Aong called for. 15. So Aong raised up a successor to Jehovah's throne in Anikaran, and he was installed and crowned according to the discipline of the Etherian heavens. 16. And Aong sent swift messengers into the former roadway of the earth to obtain its history, its harvests of brides and bridegrooms. 17. Then gazed Aong toward the red star. And his 60 million volunteers also gazed, and watched her as she coursed along in the arches of Jehovih. 18. Thus Aong, well skilled in the course and behavior of worlds, gathered together his millions of angels, trained in arduous enterprise and furtherance of Jehovah's will. Quickly they framed and equipped an Orient portal gun, and illuminated it with firelights and bolts. And these sons and daughters of Jehovah embarked and sped forth 500,000 miles, even on the outskirts of Anikaran, and they stood close above the earth, almost so near that the sweeping moon would touch the down-hanging curtains of Etherian fire. And here they halted, that both mortals and angels belonging to the earth might behold and fear. For such Jehovah made man, by unusual sights, to become weak and trembling, to change him to new purposes. 19. Jehovah's voice spake to Aong, saying, For 3 days and nights stand thou in the firmament, that man on earth and in atmosphere may behold the power and majesty of my chosen in heaven. 20. Aong said on the 4th day, O Jehovah, I will cross Chinvat. On the 5th, descend toward the earth. Bring me, O Father, thy messengers from the lower heaven. I will converse with them. 21. Jehovah sent the angels of the earth and lower heaven up to Aong. Disheartened they came, to know Jehovah's will. 22. Aong said unto them, The Father's hosts are come from their high estate and glorious seas, to redeem these fallen heavens, and man on the earth. It is our labor to come in love to the helpless, and teach them how to sing in Jehovah's praise. Then the swift messengers answered. 23. In the all-persons boundless love, find thou recompense for thy holy words, most honored God. Down in darkness, long and earnestly, have the lords of earth labored conjointly with heaven's God, whose kingdom fell. Alas, our God, who ministered over the lower heaven, is crushed and humiliated. The enemies of high heaven, exulting in their spoil of Jehovah's kingdom and his name, mock us, saying, Where now is Jehovah? Whence cometh the higher light? O ye faithists and in all person boundless. 24. But now thy high shining sun, thy ship of Etherean fire, maketh the sons and daughters of the earth enter heaven look, and fear, and tremble. And when thy light appeared, we made all haste in hope of succor. Our souls are more than filled with thankfulness. And in Jehovah's name, we will back and employ 1,000,000 trumpeters to proclaim around the earth and heaven, Jehovah is come. 25. After due salutation the swift messengers departed. And Aong made all things in readiness for his descent when the proper time should arrive. Plate 2. Etherenes visiting the earth. A. Atmosphere. B. Etherenes. E. Earth. C. Distance 20,000 miles. Chapter E. 1. Jehovah spake to Aong, saying, On the evening of the 3rd day shalt thou move thy Etherean ship toward the earth. And when thou arrivest within an Araphim, thou shalt halt for another 3 days, that thy magnificence may awe the men and angels of earth with the power and glory of my emancipated sons and daughters. 2. Aong proceeded as commanded, and when he came within an Araphim, halted for 3 days, and the magnificence of the scene overcame the stubbornness of men of earth and angels in atmosphere. Again Jehovah said. 3. Proceed again, my son, and when thou art within half the breadth of the earth, halt once more and make in the place thereof a plateau, and it shall be the place of thy abiding for the time of dawn, which shall be 7 years and 60 days. 4. And from this time forth my Etherean hosts shall not remain in atmosphere more than 8 years in any one cycle. This, then, that I give to thee shall be like every dawn of Dan, some of 1 year, some of 2 or 3 or 4 or more years, as the time requireth. 5. And thou shalt dwell in thy kingdom 7 years and 60 days, and the time shall be called the first dawn of Dan, and the next succeeding shall be called the second dawn of Dan, and so on, as long as the earth bringeth forth. 6. And the time from one dawn of Dan to another shall be called 1 danha. And 4 danha shall be called 1 square, because this is the sum of 1 density, which is 12,000 of the earth's years. And 12 squares shall be called 1 cube, which is the first dividend of the 3rd space, in which there is no variation in the vortex of the earth. And 4 cubes shall be called 1 sum, because the magnitude thereof embraceth 1 equal of the great serpent. 7. Aong proceeded again, and moved within 4,000 miles of the earth, and the voice of Jehovah commanded Aong to halt on the place, and found a new kingdom, using all things requisite to that end. Jehovah said. 8. Thy place shall be a distance away from the earth, that thy dominion be not disturbed by the confusion of the fallen angels thereof. So also, to as many as thou shalt redeem away from the earth and from mortal contact, the distance of thy kingdom will prevent them returning. 9. Aong perceived, and he proclaimed what Jehovah had spoken to him. And the hosts cast out fastenings to the plateau, that the kingdom together with the Ethereal sea of fire might rotate with the earth and its atmosphere. Jehovah said 10. Make strong the foundation of thy place, and erect 10,000 pillars of fire around about. And in every direction provide roadways and mansions. But in the midst thou shalt build the house of counsel, wherein shall sit thy host of dominion during dawn. 11. Aong built the place as commanded by Jehovah, and when it was finished, Jehovah said thou shalt call the place Yeshua. And it was so called, because it was a place of salvation. Again Jehovah said 12. Choose now thy counsel, my son, and also thy sub-officers, and when thou hast completed the list, leave in Yeshua the sub-officers and proceed thou, and thy council of 1,000,000 men and women with thee, down to the earth and heaven thereof, and cast thine eyes upon the inhabitants, for they are in distress. And when thou comest to the place of my lords and my God, deliver thou them and bring them to Yeshua, for they need rest. And as many of the Ihins in heaven as are capable, bring thou also away with thee, and give them into the care of thy people. 13. Aong did as commanded, first selecting his council and his officers, and then he and his hosts proceeded to the earth as had been commanded. Chapter 3. 1. Up to this time the ancient names of the division of the lands of the earth had been maintained, and God and his lords being driven from the place of Hord, which had gone into dissolution, dwelt part of the time in Waga and part in Jud and Vohu. 2. And God and the lords had established 3 kingdoms, one in Waga, one in Jud, and one in Vohu. And within these kingdoms of heaven there were 200 millions of redeemed angels capable of the second resurrection, and 100 millions of Essenes and unlearned apprentices. Chief of the 3 heavens was Waga, and thither had God and his lords congregated with their chief officers, as soon as the sign of the descending sea of Jehovah's kingdom appeared in the firmament above. 3. To God, Jehovah spake, saying, Make ready thy places, O my son, and thy lords with thee. Behold, I come in a world of fire, and my faithful workers shall find rest and happiness. 4. Aong will redeem thy sons and daughters. Yea, he will girdle the earth about with new, ethereal light and great power. 5. Call together thy people, O God, and bid them rejoice and make merry, for the time of deliverance is at hand. 6. Then God communicated to the lords, and they again to others, the words of Jehovah. And as sight of the sign in heaven, the faithful began to rejoice and to gather together in their respective places. But of the unbelieving angels dwelling on earth, and with mortals, and in other abodes, of whom there were hundreds of millions, this is what happened. 7. They were overcome by the sight of the ship of fire in heaven above, and in fear fled in all directions. And by their great numbers, in the presence of mortals, caused mortals also to fear and flee in search of some secure place. And many of these spirits of darkness came beseechingly to be admitted into the kingdoms of the lords, whither they had been invited for hundreds of years, but would not come. 8. But God and the lords encompassed their places about with walls of light and would not receive the unbelieving. God said, Till such time as Aong shall arrive, let order be maintained within my kingdoms. So it came to pass that for 6 days and nights the fear that prevailed on earth and in heaven was such as had never been before since the earth was. 9. And God and the lords brought their ezinors out, and they sang and danced before Jehovah. And on the approach of Aong's hosts, with his musicians and heralds, and the great multitude, arrayed in shining raiment, even God and the lords were overcome by the splendor and magnificence. 10. They sat down on the improvised throne, and the Ethereal marshals approached and divided, first into single columns, then double, then quadruple, and so on till the 50,000 marshals had enclosed all sides, save the east, where was an open space through which Aong came, attended by his chief counselors, of which there were 5,000. After these came the council of 1,000,000, interbroken here and there with groups of thousands of ezinors, who were chanting hymns of praise to Jehovah and his kingdoms. 11. The lower heaven above the continent of Waga and parts of Jud and Vohu was illuminated by the hosts of Aong, the like of which had never been an atmosphere before. Nor was there any more work being done on earth or in heaven, because of the fear and great stirring up. 12. But now Aong approached before the throne of God and the Lord's, saluting with the sign of the second degree of Jehovah, saying, in Jehovah's name and by his power, wisdom and love, am I come to give you joy. 13. God said in Jehovah's name, all hail. Aong, chief of Anikaran, all hail. And God went forward to the foot of the throne and received Aong, whereupon the lords came forward saluting also. The Ezianor ceased singing, and Aong proceeded to the throne and sat thereon, and God took off his own crown and gave it to Aong, and also gave him the triangle, which was called the heirloom of the heavenly kingdoms of earth, bestowed by command of Jehovah. 14. The all-light was abundant around about Aong, and the voice of Jehovah spake out of the midst thereof, saying in Asmach, as these things are done in my name prayerfully, and in faith, so do I dwell with you all. My son shall wear thy crown, O God. 15. Behold, I am come in might and swiftness, for it is the springtime of the earth. My son, Cephas, is afoot on the earth. He hath stirred up the earth-born. But I will establish anew my light in these heavens. 16. Have I not said I brought the seed of everlasting life to the earth? I gave God and his lords to teach mortals and spirits of my glories in the upper heavens. And I commanded that they that come up out of the earth should be my God and my lords in these realms. 17. Ye were installed by my hand, and have done a good work. Think not that I curse because Hor and Moab are fallen. Knew I not beforehand that these things would be? Behold, I have provided all my work so that man should be forever making new things. Had Hor stood, there had been no heaven to rebuild on earth in this day. How, then, could my newborn gods learn? Think not that I come to teach with mine own labor. I provide my people that they shall teach one another. 18. What is so conceited as man? And yet I bring him into life the dumbest of animals. Man prideth himself in his power and wisdom. I send the drought, the rains and winds, the weakest of my members, and they show man he is nothing. So also do my gods and lords of the lower heaven become conceited of their power and wisdom. But a turn of a word, and their heavens fall. Thousands of millions of souls turn from order and high estate into confusion and anarchy. Thus do I confound men and angels, and in their seeming misery lay the foundation for an everlasting good. The voice ceased. 19. Aong said, in the name of Jehovah, I announce my presence over earth and the lower heaven. 20. The marshals said, all hail. Aong, God of heaven and earth. Proclaim him in Jehovah's name. 21. Hardly had these words gone forth when the voice of the entire hosts joined in proclaiming, all hail. O God, Son of Jehovah. 22. Aong, now God, said, thy crown shall be my crown, for under this shall Jehovah's power triumph. Otherwise people would say, behold, there is no virtue in Jehovah's crowns. So, he placed it on his head and rose up and saluted the retired God and lords, saying to them, 23. I have a place for ye. And it is called Yeshua. Retire thither with my proper officers, and partake of rest and the freedom of the place until I come also. But the retired God and lords said, we pray thee, put us to labor. Whereupon God Aong said, 24. Jehovah's sons must not be humiliated. How, then, can ye labor under me? Were ye not Jehovah's God and lords? 25. They perceived, and, after due salutations, were provided with an escort of 500,000 men and women. And they departed on their way to Yeshua. 26. God Aong said, let me come before me, and bring foe and nest. They shall be my lords of dawn in Jehovah's name. 27. The three came and stood before the throne. God said, I announce the presence of Jehovah's lords of the earth. The marshals said, all hail. Omgi and bring foe and nest, Jehovah's lords of earth. 28. These were also proclaimed by the voice of the assembled hosts. God said in Jehovah's name, go your ways, O lords of earth. 29. Whereupon the lords crowned themselves and at once departed, saluting reverently. 30. God said, "Bring the Atmospherean marshals before me." They were brought and stationed in front of the throne. God said, "Glory be to thee, O Jehovah. I have looked upon thy sons and daughters who have withstood the great darkness, but retained faith in thee. In thy name, and by virtue of thy power, do I deliver them. Let him who is chief answer me, how many angels are prepared for the second resurrection?" 31. Sani, chief marshal, said, 200 millions. God said, "Retire thou and thy companions, and gather together Jehovah's harvest of souls, and I will send them to Yeshua." 32. The Atmosphereans were then duly arranged as commanded, and God called 100 swift messengers and 1,000 Etherian marshals, and they provided the bateaus. And the hosts, prepared for the second resurrection, departed for Yeshua, as commanded. 33. God said, "I have now remaining my Etherian hosts and the Atmosphereans in darkness. Of the latter, let them remain as they are for 3 days, for I will travel around the world, and my Etherian hosts with me, observing mortals and spirits in their places and habits, that I may the better judge them and provide accordingly." 34. So God and his Etherian angels provided an bateaus, and they embarked and started on their journey, traveling imperceptibly to mortals. Chapter IV. 1. The Council of Yeshua, of which there were 1,000,000 members, was formed in groups, and these again represented in groups, and these in still other groups. Consequently, a group of 1,000 had one speaker, who became the voice of that 1,000. Of these speakers, 100 had one voice in council. And of these, 10 had one voice before God, and he was the voice of the whole, and Jehovah was his voice. Thus was the whole council represented in all its parts. And this was the manner of proceeding, to wit 2. God commanded the subject. The council deliberated in thousands, and each speaker became aware of the voice of his group. Then these speakers assembled in hundreds and deliberated, and they again centered into one voice. And each 10 of these had one voice before God. Thus it came to pass that the decrees of God were both the wisdom of men and of Jehovah. Hence the saying, when God said this, or God commanded that, it was the word of Jehovah expressed by men and angels. 3. After God and his hosts visited the earth and the lower heaven, they returned to Yeshua and sat in council on the affairs of mortals and Atmosphereans. 4. God said, "Behold, the heavens and earth have become like gardens grown foul and rank, producing nothing. I have come with a pruning knife and a consuming fire." 5. God said, "I withdraw from the drug and the drug the beneficence of Jehovah is chosen. I leave them destitute. Who can approach the beggar with wisdom, or the king with inspiration to be good? A drowning man will try to swim. But the reveler in lust must perish before his soul can learn Jehovah." 6. Better is it to labor with a child from infancy, and thence to maturity, to teach it aright, than to strive with a score of conceited adults, and fail to redeem one. Who is the mocker of charity more than they that give to such as can help themselves but will not? Wisdom and uprightness of heart are but bread. Preach not to unwelcome ears. Are sermons of wisdom to be forced into men's souls? 7. Bless Jehovah. He made hunger, and so men love bread. Without hunger they would not eat. A wise God driveth home to man's understanding his helplessness in spirit when Jehovah is denied. 8. Pursue the earth, O my beloved. Bring hence all light. Pursue the lower heaven of the earth also. Bring hence all light. I will leave the earth and heaven in darkness 1 whole year. They shall cry out. Their conceit in the dumb wind shall fail. 9. Have not the spirits of heaven despoiled Hord and Moab? Do not evil spirits and evil men say, "Behold, there is enough. Let us divide." But they produce not. They are devourers, living on other substance. The Great Spirit made man to exert. By exertion groweth he in wisdom and strength. 10. They seek ease and comfort. Helpless and more helpless they fall. They are on the road to everlasting destruction. Happy is the God who can arouse them. Chapter V. 1. God said, "Blessed is the surgeon's knife. Its burn is the capital of health regained." But yet a fool will cry out, Hold! Hold! Enough! Thou inflicter of pain! 2. Who hath an eye like Jehovah? His whipping posts are on all sides, but there is a clear road between them. Yet man followeth it not. 3. Withdraw all good men and good angels, and there is no person left. They would not be half made up. A man without an arm or a leg is but part of a man. A man without perception of the all-person is a deformity in soul. He seeketh a home for his own ease and glory. But the Son of Jehovah seeketh to find the severest labor that will profit his brethren. 4. Yeshua shall be my homestead. Hither will I bring the fruit of heaven below. Hither build my training schools. 7 years shall be my service. And they shall learn the ways of Etheria. Build me a house of brotherhood and fill it with willing pupils sworn to labor. I will make them gods and lords with power and wisdom. 5. Behold, a man maketh a factory and turneth out fabric for sale. I make a college and I turn out sons and daughters of Jehovah, to give away. Bring me such material as will stand in warp and filling. Jehovah's fabric shall endure forever. Search me out the seed of Aong, and house them with care, for they shall redeem the earth born after I ascend to the Father's kingdom. Chapter Vi. 1. All the first best angels of Atmospheria were brought away from the earth and housed in Yeshua, being placed at school and in factories new made in heaven. These were angels. 2. The second first best spirits were brought also, but placed in hospitals and nurseries. 3. Of those who had advanced to receive the second resurrection, God said, Build an Etherian ship and take them to Theastivi, in Etheria. 4. So it came to pass there were 200 millions raised to the second resurrection, of the grade 35. Theastivi lieth betwixt Etheria and 7 Agi, which is the lowest of the Etherian heavens next to an Atmospherean abode. 5. God said, 2 qualities have I left in Yeshua, first and second. These shall be the new kingdom after I am ascended. From these I will raise up a God and lords, and they shall rule over the lower heaven and the earth. And they shall bequeath to others after them to rule in like manner. 6. Thus was founded the second light of Jehovah on the fruit of the earth. God's Etherian hosts became as a training school to raise up a God and lords and marshals and ezinors, and all other officers, and men and women, for a lower heaven. God said, Yeshua shall not approach nearer the earth. Nor shall it be his horde, where spirits of darkness might easily approach. 7. 100 millions of spirits did God and his lords and fellow laborers bring from the earth to Yeshua, and they were placed in a brotherhood apportioned in the places suited to their talents. And God divided the time of study, and of recreation, and of music, and of discipline, marching, and so on, suited to all the people. And it was a place of order and glory. 8. For without discipline there is nothing. And discipline cannot be without ceremony. Nor ceremony without rites, and forms, and established words. Is it not a foolish soldier that saith, Behold, I am wise? I need no discipline nor manual of arms. What more is he than one of an untutored mob? 9. God said, As I drill them in heaven to make them a unit, so give ye to mortals rites and ceremonies, that, coming into heaven, they go not back to their old haunts and fall in darkness. Whatever tendeth to harmonize the behavior of individuals is of the Father. The opposite tendeth to evil. Better is it that men march to the sound of one monotonous word, than not to march at all. The value lieth not in the word, but in bringing in unison that which was void. A fool saith, I need not pray, there is no virtue in words. But his soul groweth up at variance with Jehovah. Neither is there more virtue in the prayer or the words, than in marching sacred dance before Jehovah. For whatever tendeth to unite men in one expression of soul in harmony, is Jehovah's. 10. Sacred dances and rites and ceremonies were established in Yeshua in the name of Jehovah. And the new heaven became a place of delight. 11. God said, Teach my chosen to labor hard and wisely, and to dance with energy, and to sing with strength and fullness of soul. For what more is there in any man or woman than to learn to put forth And what more pitiful thing is there in heaven than a man or woman who hath but dragged along? Chapter 7. 1. When all the first best spirits of the lower heaven, and such as dwelt with mortals, were taken away and domiciled in Yeshua, they were left only dross spirits of darkness on the face of the earth. For 1 whole year God left the earth void of Jehovah's light. 2. Mortals loved more to commune with the spirits of their kindred, who knew little of heaven, than they did with Etherenes who were wise and holy. 3. God said, What man or what woman have ye found who saith, Come ye angels of Jehovah, tell me wherein I can do more good works, for I thirst, and am hungry to serve Jehovah with all my wisdom and strength in doing good to my fellows? 4. Rather do they turn away from such, and drink in the tales of the strolling drah, and so wrap themselves in darkness. For this reason shall they find darkness in heaven and earth. And they shall be as one who is sick and broken down in conceit. 5. When the year of darkness was ended, God sent pruners around about the earth and in the lower heaven of the earth. 2 millions of pruners sent he forth, saying to them, Find all the evil spirits dwelling with mortals, whether they be fetals or familiars, and gather them into one place. Then find the spirits and fairies who have taken up caves and waterfalls on earth as their abode, and bring them to the same place. Then find the idiotic and chaotic spirits who dwell on battlefields, and bring them to the same place. Then find the lusters, who dwell in old castles and ruined cities, and in houses of evil, and when they are going out for raids on mortals, seize them and bring them to the same place. 6. The Etherenes went and collected all the evil spirits and the spirits of darkness belonging to the earth, and brought them to a place in Atmospheria, and there were of them 900 millions. 7. God said, Prepare a ship suitable to transport them to Adaha, in Jia, and there provide them a kingdom to themselves, giving them a God and lords and proper officers to discipline and educate them for Jehovah's kingdoms. 8. Thus were they removed, and the earth and its lower heaven were purified from evil spirits by the decree of God in Yeshua, in the 2nd year of the first dawn of Dan. Chapter 8. 1. In the 2nd year of Yeshua, God that is at Aong caused to be established in this heaven all requisite places of learning and industry, whereby and wherein Essenes might be educated to good works, and to a general knowledge of Jehovah's kingdom's universe, and there volunteered a sufficient number of Etherenes as teachers and practisers of work for all that was required. 2. God said, Now that the earth and heaven are purified from evil, my lords shall deliver the Essenes to the Asaphs, and enjoin them to deliver in Yeshua, which I have established a short distance from the earth as a barrier against their returning to mortals. Jehovah said, Suffer not the blind to lead the blind. 3. And it was so. At the time mortals died, their spirits were taken by the Asaphs to Yeshua. And to make this an acceptable labor to the Essenes, God said, Tell my lords of the earth to teach mortals by inspiration and otherwise of my kingdom, Yeshua. 4. And it so came to pass through the lords and the Ashers, that is, the guardian spirits with mortals, that the name, Yeshua, was established on the earth. God said in the time of Cosman, Men shall say, Whence came the name of heavenly things? But Yeshua shall lie hid away, and Jehovah will in that day stretch forth his hand and disclose all. 5. But mortals were thick in tongue, and could not say Yeshua, and they said I.E.Su. Hence came the name of many men, Isu, signifying, without evil, which is the ultimate salvation of the soul. 6. Jehovah spake through God, saying, The time of the end of dawn cometh, and my emancipated sons and daughters shall return to their places, taking the resurrected with them. But that the earth and lower heaven may not be left in darkness, provide ye a God and lords and marshals and messengers, and all other officers, to rule and teach in my name. 7. From the born of earth shall ye make them, and they shall hold office for 200 years, and 400 years, and 600 years, according to the Atmospherean cycles. 8. Suffer not my Etherean hosts to remain longer than dawn, either on the earth or within Atmospheria, for I shall take the earth into dark regions in order to build it up to a higher state for the time that cometh after. 9. The voice departed. God said, Let the voice of the council deliberate on this matter, and speak before the Father. For I will provide also a heaven in the ancient place of Hord, and it shall be called Oahspe, for it shall be a place of reception for the spirits of the dead preparatory to their being brought to Yeshua. 10. In course of time there were raised up many of the earth born, and God selected them and appointed them to fill the places. And he founded Oahspe, and officered it according to the command of Jehovah. After God established rites and ceremonies, and processions and dances, with sacred words, in Yeshua, he commanded his lords to give the same things to mortals, and they so fulfilled all that was designed from the beginning. 11. In the 7th year of dawn God commanded his council to select another God and lords, and other officers. And the council proceeded after the manner of the ancients, selecting the most learned and the purest and holiest. According to their rank in godliness chose they them, and a record was made of these matters and deposited in the library of Yeshua. 12. So it came to pass that God called in his own lords of the earth, and set apart the first day of the new moon as the day on which he would consecrate the God and lords, his successors. And he called the day Maz, the name of which entereth to this day of Cosman. Furthermore, God established the moon's day Maz on the earth as a time of consecration. And this is the origin of saying Mass. 13. When the chosen were in place before the throne, God said by command of Jehovah are ye brought before me, his son. And his name will I consecrate ye to the places commanded of him. 14. The marshals then conducted him that ranked highest up to the seat of the throne. God said 15. In the name of Jehovah, and by his power, wisdom and love, do I ordain thee God of heaven and earth. He that receiveth from my hand receiveth from my Father, who raised me up. 16. The initiate said all power cometh from the Father. All wisdom cometh from the Father. All love cometh from the Father. In his name and by virtue of his commandments through his Son, receive I all that is put upon me, for his glory, forever. 17. God then said, give me a crown, O Father, for thy Son. A scarlet light descended from above, and God reached forth his hands and wove it into a crown and placed it on the initiate's head, saying, God of heaven and earth, thee I crown. And now shalt thou receive also the sacred triangle, which is the heirloom of the gods of earth. And he hung it around his neck, adding, and since there can be but one God on earth or in this heaven, I herewith uncrown myself in Jehovah's name and salute thee, O God, God of earth and heaven. 18. Aong now stood to the right, and God, who was ordained, went and sat on the throne, and there descended red and blue lights from above, enveloping him completely, and he was quickened. He said 19. Let the initiates for lords of earth approach the throne of the Most High Jehovah. 20. The 5 lords came forward. God said, join hands and receive ye from the Father. By virtue of the power, wisdom and love of Jehovah, vested in me, receive I thee as the highest chosen. And I proclaim thee Lord of earth, in Jehovah's name. Accept this crown from heaven above, the like of which cannot be woven from earthly things. By its power shalt thou remain in accord with Yeshua and the kingdoms above. 21. God fashioned the crowns and then crowned them lords of the 5 divisions of the earth. God said, retire thou aside and choose thy messengers and officers, and after ordaining them, depart to the kingdom prepared for thee. The Lord said 22. In thy name, O Jehovah, do I accept that which thou hast put upon me. With all my wisdom and strength and love will I serve thee, O my Father, Jehovah. 23. The lords retired. And the Ezionors sang, more than 1,000,000 of voices in concert. Chapter X. 1. Now had the time come for the end of the first dawn of Dan after the creation of man. And this was known in the Etherean heavens, where lived countless millions of Jehovah's sons and daughters emancipated. And, as might be expected, they determined to descend from all sides to witness the labors of Aong, and to receive his works as a profitable lesson for their own future on other new worlds. 2. Consequently, there began to appear in the firmament far-off stars, approaching. And these were the Etherean ships in remote places, where the name of Aong had been known for thousands of years. From all sides they came, growing brighter and brighter, larger and larger. 3. Aong spoke to his companions, saying, "Make ready, O my beloved. My friends and your friends are coming. Put our ship in order. Light the pillars of fire and spread out the sails, shining, that they may be glorified in Jehovah's name." 4. The proper persons accomplished these things, and to the eastward of Yeshua the Etherian ship of Aong was anchored. And so great was the size thereof that there was room for the Etherenes of Anicaran and upward of 300 millions of the redeemed of earth besides. 5. Aong said, "When our friends arrive, we shall join them and make an excursion round the earth, discovering its rank and glorious promises. But as to the 900 millions of Drujas which I sent off to Adaha, in Jia, we shall pass thither on our way to Anicaran." 6. Brighter and brighter grew the descending stars, the Etherian ships from far-off worlds. And larger, till in majesty they neared Yeshua. Aong then came down and sat at the foot of the throne, according to the custom of gods. God came down and took him by the hand, saying, "Son of Jehovah, that maketh thyself the least of men, arise, and take thy hosts, and embark in Jehovah's ship, going whithersoever thou wilt." Aong rose up. The Ezianors and trumpeters played and sang. Then Aong said, 7. One more love have I in the world, O Jehovah. I go from Yeshua, but my love remaineth. To thee, O God, will I look back in hope and love, for thou wert raised by me. And to thy lords what less could I say? Yea, and to all the hosts I leave within these realms. 8. Aong touched God's right hand, and then saluting, with a third sign of Ameth to Jehovah, departed, and the marshals conducted him off to the ship. 9. Aong and his Etherian hosts rose up in curtains of light. And presently the ship was loosened from its anchorage and floated upward, and all the angels entered into it. And the sails were spread out, and the mantlets suspended on every side, till the whole vessel, with its thousands of masts and arcs, looked like a world on fire. The inhabitants of Yeshua feared and trembled for the mighty works of the gods and goddesses. And yet, as the Ezianors on the departing ship chanted, more than 1,000,000 of voices, the Yeshuans sang with them, amidst their tears, with souls overflowing, with awe and love and admiration. 10. And in the same time the descending stars of other gods and goddesses, the Etherian ships from far-off worlds, were drawing nearer and nearer. And, on every side, the firmament was as if alive with worlds on fire. 11. Presently they came, first one and then another of the Etherenes, and they made fast to Aong's ship, until thus more than 500 were united into one mighty vessel, and yet so near to Yeshua that all could be seen. 12. And when they had united there were countless millions of angels thus in close proximity, many who had known one another for thousands of years. And some who were older than the earth, and knew its history. And these had companions as old as themselves. And they were ripe in experience with corporeal earths, stars and suns in other regions of Jehovah's kingdoms. 13. So great was the wisdom of these gods and goddesses that to come within the earth's atmosphere was sufficient to enable them to read all the souls and prayers of mortals, and all the thoughts and desires of the spirits of the lower heaven belonging to the earth. To each and all of them the voice of Jehovah was ever present, and their power was like unto their wisdom. 14. Jehovah hath said to the corporean, I have given power to hear one or two things at the same moment of time. But my gods can hear intelligently tens of thousands of men speaking at the same time. Yea, they can find a way to answer them also. 15. When the ships were ready for departure, Aong said, Let us pass low over Yeshua, and ye shall hear and see those I have founded in a new heaven. His companions said, Jehovah's will be done. Thereupon they proceeded. And after they had visited Yeshua they descended to the earth, and round about the places of the lords. And when they had seen all, and heard the explanation, from those without Aong, of the state the earth was in, and of the heavens of the earth, they rose higher and higher, and sailed toward Anicaran, whither Aong had invited them for repast and social intercourse. 16. Thus departed the Etherenes from the earth and atmospherea. This, then, was the beginning of the cycles of Dan. and the first dawn was closed and past. 17. And the earth gods, that is, the lords, who are now called Adonia, were such as had been brought forth out of the earth. And God, who had dominion in the atmosphere of the earth, was also an earth-born. And so were all the angels in atmosphere the product of the earth. 18. And in Jehovah's name were the lords and God appointed and crowned to rule in their respective places, and they thus became the instruments of Jehovah for his glory. 19. Jehovah said, whoever serveth me, in my name, is my son, or my daughter. The light of my judgment falleth upon them sufficient for the time and place. Inasmuch as ye honor them, ye honor me also. Through the flowers of the field I express myself in color and perfume. Through the lion and mastodon I express myself with power and voraciousness. Through the lamb and the dove I express myself in meekness and docility. Through man I express myself in words and actions. And all men, the wise and the ignorant, are channels of my expression. Some have thick tongues and poor speech, nevertheless they are my babes, my sons and daughters. 20. Jehovah said, after the seam and age I give to the earth from my ethereal heaven's sons and daughters, and they abode with mortals for 3,000 years. And my ethereans established Louise on the lands of the earth. And they commanded the Louise, saying to them, your office is to lead mortals by inspiration to dwell together, man and woman, as husband and wife. And in such adaptation that their offspring shall rise higher in wisdom, love and power, than the father and mother. 21. Jehovah said, I will confound the wise man in the latter days. For he shall not discover why man and woman live not indiscriminately, as the beasts. Yea, I will show him that they who profess me are led by me, that they who deny me go down to indiscriminate communion. Out of my works shall the lessons of the early days of the earth show the presence of my hand from the beginning. By my Louise was man and woman inspired to raise up such sons and daughters as would glorify me and my works. By my Louise have I maintained my foothold amongst mortals. 22. Such as could comprehend me, having faith that my presence in person should ultimately triumph for the highest and best, I commanded to be called fathists. Since the beginning, have I kept a thread of this line inhabiting the earth and her heavens. 23. At the end of the second cycle there were in atmosphere 6,000 million angels, who were for the most part in darkness, not knowing who they were, or where they dwelt, nor knowing nor caring whether there were other heavens or not. 24. And now began wars in atmosphere. Thousands of angels against thousands, and millions against millions. 25. For the possession of sections of the earth, and the mortal inhabitants thereof, went forth these millions of warring angels. And it came to pass that mortals also fell to war, and, by the obsessing angels, were made to destroy their own cities and kingdoms. 26. And the attractions of this great wickedness caused other angels of heaven to desert their schools and factories, and descend down to mortals. 27. Thus again were the kingdoms of God and his Lord set at naught. The harvests of brides and bridegrooms had long since ceased to be. 28. The first harvest was 200 years, and the number of brides and bridegrooms was 600 millions, of grade 92. 29. The second harvest was 200 years, and was 800 million angels, of grade 89. 30. The third harvest was 600 years, and was 2,000 million angels, of grade 83. 31. The fourth harvest was 500 years, and was 2,300 million angels, of grade 74. 32. The fifth harvest was 300 years, and was 600 million angels, of grade 62. 33. The sixth harvest was 400 years, and 900 million angels, of grade 51. 34. And this was the last harvest. For none were of sufficient grade to abide in the ethereal heavens. End of the Book of Aong, son of Jehovah.